Hello students, in this video we will be covering Porphyria Lover by Robert Browning. In this poem, Browning has portrayed a complex character who kills the woman he loves in order to eternalize the moment of love. He justifies his action by giving a false logic, but his act defies all logical explanations. Robert Browning was one of the greatest Victorian poets. He popularized the poetic form known as dramatic monologue. Through these dramatic monologues, he tried to delve deep into the psyche of a large variety of characters. Browning's optimism in an age of doubt and pessimism stand out. His poetry is the poetry of faith, hope, and courage. Intellectual vigor and versatility are the hallmark of his dramatic art. The poem was written in 1833 during Browning's visit to St. Petersburg, Russia. It was published in the year 1836 and republished in 1842 in dramatic lyrics, and it is written in the form of dramatic monologue. Let's start reading. The rain set early into night. The sullen wind was soon awake. It tore the elm-tops down for spite, and did its worst to vex the lake. These lines describe the setting for the action that takes place in the poem. It is a rainy night. It has started raining quite early this night. And with the advent of rain, strong winds also have started blowing. The force of the wind is so great that the top branches of elm trees are falling down on the earth. The trees do not seem to like the strong wind. Out of hatred, they are shedding those top branches on the earth. The wind is also disturbing the waves of the lake. The power of the wind is being felt in its worst form by the lake. The wind is described as a hostile being. This description sets the mood and tone for the rest of the poem. I listened with a heart fit to break when glided in Porphyria. Straight she shut the cold out and the storm, and kneeled and made the cheerless grate blaze up, and all the cottage warm. The speaker is listening to the sounds of a stormy weather in his cottage, and he feels a storm is raging in himself too. The moment is so strenuous that it can break his heart. But then there is a sudden shift in the tone when he sees Porphyria. When she entered and closed the door, the stormy cold outside gets shut out. The lover's heart too attains some rest. He closely watches her movements, how she kneels down and kindles fire in the fireplace. The whole of the cottage becomes warm and cozy because of the fire and her presence. The wind and the rain represent the storms in the speaker's life, but the moment Porphyria enters, life's other difficulties fade in her presence. Which done, she rose and from her form withdrew the dripping cloak and shawl, and laid her soiled gloves by, untied her hat, and let the damp hair fall. So after Porphyria has warmed the cottage with her presence and with a fire in the fireplace, she got up, and from her body she gradually started removing the outer garments one by one. First of all, she took off the soaking overcoat and then the shawl. The dirty gloves too were laid by on one side of the place. Then she unloosened her hat and removed it, and her wet hair fell down on her face. And last, she sat down by my side and called me. When no voice replied, she put my arm about her waist and made her smooth white shoulder bare. So at last Porphyria sat down by the side of her lover and called him. When the lover did not give any response to her, she took hold of the lover's arm and put it around her waist. She then made her shoulder bare, and he observes that her shoulder was white in color and smooth to touch, and her yellow hair displaced, and stooping made my cheek lie there, and spread over all her yellow hair. Porphyria removed all her yellow hair from her shoulder. She bent a little and made her lover's cheek rest there. After this, she covered the cheek and the shoulder with her yellow hair, murmuring how she loved me, she, too weak for all her heart's endeavor, to set its struggling passion free from pride and vainer ties deceiver, and gives herself to me forever. Porphyria softly spoke about the depth of love she had for him. She was so overpowered by the lover's touch that she became numb. Even if she desired to go against the wishes of her lover, she could not. She forgot about the pride of a woman and worldly relationship. All these seemed to have lost all meaning to her. Under the influence of the passion of love, she gave herself completely to her lover. But passion sometimes would prevail, nor could tonight's gay feast restrain a sudden thought of one so pale for love of her, and all in vain. These lines suggest that Porphyria left a gay feast and came through the storm to meet him. It also reveals that Porphyria belongs to a rich family and he is poor. This is probably the reason why the society is against their love. But the lover feels that the strong feelings of love sometimes arouse strange ideas in one's mind. The cruel act, he thinks, is justified by saying that even this idea is an expression of love for his beloved. So she was come through wind and rain. Be sure, I looked up at her eyes, happy and proud. At last I knew Porphyria worshipped me. Surprise made my heart swell, and still it grew, while I debated what to do. The very purpose of Porphyria coming to her lover in that cold stormy night was to have a gay feast of love and eternalize it. The lover expresses a sense of pride and happiness when he looks at her eyes. He feels that his beloved Porphyria worships him, but he is unable to decide what to do with the heinous idea that has turned him pale. He finds himself in a state of dilemma. That moment, she was mine, fair, perfectly pure and good. I found a thing to do, and all her hair in one long yellow string I wound 3 times her little throat around, and strangled her. No pain felt she. I am quite sure she felt no pain. Here the lover describes the brutal act which he committed on his beloved. He had realized that she had completely submitted herself to him. To him, she was beautiful, perfectly pure and good. An instinct of possession took over him, and he decided to do that act by which she would be never able to leave him. He wound all her hair in one long yellow string and made a kind of a rope and put that string around her little throat 3 times, and in this way he strangled her. And he feels confident that her death had been totally painless. As a shut butt that holds a bee, I wearily oped her lids. Again laughed the blue eyes without a stain, and I untightened next the tress about her neck. Her cheek once more blushed bright beneath my burning kiss. I propped her head up as before. Only this time my shoulder bore her head, which droops upon it still. So the lover expresses his feelings towards his beloved after killing her. He draws a comparison between her death and the death of a bee that dies in a shut bud. He very cautiously and carefully opened her eyelids. Her eyes expressed no sign of pain, but only a sense of laughter. Then he loosened the hair rope from her neck. Her cheek showed no sign of pain. It became once again red and crimson under his passionate kiss. The lover in this way set himself free from any sense of guilt over his brutal act. He raised her head once again as he had done earlier for the passionate burning kiss, but her head was still lifeless. It immediately fell upon his shoulder. The smiling rosy little head, so glad it has its utmost will, that all it scorned at once is fled, and I, its love, am gained instead. The lover felt that her head is still smiling and rosy because she had got her ultimate wish fulfilled. The head expressed no sense of hatred. Whatever hatred she had fled forever after the consummation. The lover too has been a gainer in her death. She now could no longer leave him. Porphyria's love, she guessed not how her darling one wish would be heard. And thus we sit together now, and all night long we have not stirred, and yet God has not said a word. In his delusion, the lover believes that he has given Porphyria the only thing she wanted the most, and he granted her wish by ending her life. After committing her murder, the lover holds her dead body in his arms, and in this position, he and his beloved sit together all the night. Both do not move at all from the place where they are sitting. But somewhere the lover feels a sense of guilt, and that feeling forces him to bring God to justify his act. That is why he says that even God has nothing to say against his act. In other words, God also understands his love for his beloved. Thus the lover completely frees himself from this sense of guilt. That's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the explanation. If you have any question or you want me to cover any topic, do let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe and click the notification bell so that you can be notified of my upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching.